Hello, and welcome to the Songwriters Workshop. This is the series where I attempt to write songs based on the process and techniques of famous songwriters. Each video looks at a different songwriter's writing habits, musical inspirations, and creative process, while also including an original song written using those techniques. So let's take a look at our next songwriter. In this video, we will be looking at drummer and songwriter Phil Collins.
You like Phil Collins?
I've got 2 ears and a heart, don't I?
Phil grew up in West London and attended a theatre school, studying acting as a teenager. He even played the Artful Dodger in Oliver on the West End, Britain's premier theatre district. However, Phil's true passion would end up being drums, idolizing drummers like Ringo Starr and John Bonham as he grew up. After playing in a couple of bands in the late 60s, Phil would answer an ad in the newspaper looking for a drummer sensitive to acoustic music. He then found himself in the home of Peter Gabriel's parents, auditioning for the band Genesis. Phil would later join Peter and the rest of the band in 1970 as the drummer and occasional vocalist for their next 4 albums. However, after recording and touring their concept album A Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Peter Gabriel would leave the band, and Phil would eventually take on his role as the band's lead vocalist, while also remaining on drums. With Phil as frontman, the band would release an additional 9 studio albums between 1976 and 1997, including the multi-platinum album Invisible Touch in 1986. Phil and the band continue to tour today with founding members Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford, frequent member Daryl Strummer, and Phil's son Nick Collins taking over for his dad on drums. However, Genesis would not be Phil's only musical output during this time, as he also had a thriving solo career. His solo career would start with a bang with the release of Face Value in 1981, which featured the lead single In the Air Tonight. Phil's solo career would begin to eclipse even Genesis's fame, as In the Air Tonight went #1 across Europe, leading bandmate Tony to comment on the song, "Yeah, still only got 3 chords in it." 4, actually, replied Phil. But the band remained supportive of each other's solo endeavors. More fantastic songs from Phil would follow, including hits like Against All Odds, Another Day in Paradise, and Sussudio, and in total he would release 8 solo studio albums. Phil also has a long history with the movie industry. He was brought in as the songwriter for the Disney film Tarzan, and breaking with tradition of having the characters sing the songs, Phil would sing the soundtrack for the movie. He was also returned to his acting roots, starring in the thriller comedy Frauds, and having cameo appearances in And the Band Played On and Steven Spielberg's Hook. The source for this video is Phil's autobiography, Not Dead Yet. The book takes us through his life in music with Genesis, as a solo artist, and his collaborations with the likes of George Harrison, Eric Clapton, Robert Plant, and his own jazz big band. The book also gives us a look into his personal life and how it affected his songwriting. Phil lets his feelings show through his music, something that I have struggled with as I grow as a songwriter. I hope that his insights into the songwriting process will help me, and others like me, to let my songs be a deeper reflection of myself. So let's get started. I knew since this was going to be a Phil Collins-inspired track, drums were going to be an important part of it. Now, drums are an instrument I have barely ever touched, and I knew I was never going to get close to Phil's iconic drum kit sound. So I will have to rely on programmed drums to try and get as close as I can. However, this isn't too far away from what Phil has done both in his solo albums and with Genesis. Before recording Face Value, Phil would outfit his home studio with a Roland CR-78 drum machine, and would soon fall in love with it, saying, "Soon that old faithful kit is cast aside as I grow to like the CR-78. Maybe this coming technology won't put me on the employment scrap heap after all." He says of writing with the drum machine, "I program some pretty simple drum machine parts and I mess about on the 8-track. These doodles of mine slowly take shape. Gradually, without me even noticing really. Doodles become sketches, become outlines, become mini portraits, become songs." So I did something similar for my first writing session. I just played around with the drum machine sounds in my recording software. I even found one that was pretty close to the CR-78 that I ended up using in my song. Soon, I had a good bank of drum parts that I would later cobble together into my song. This is something that I would like to invest more time into in the future, just playing around with sounds with no real intention of turning them into songs. If it does, great, but if not, it's still fulfilling. With my drum doodles from the first session, I chose one that I liked and started finding chords to put under them. Like the first session, it was a lot of just having fun with synth lines over my drum beat. And this is similar to how Phil would work with Genesis. He says when going into a writing session with Tony and Mike, "We have nothing planned, so we go in and improvise. We play. It's not like John brings in a song and Paul brings in a song. I don't know any other band that works like we do, sitting around, improvising together, until something forms." So I just played around as well. I didn't have an idea for a song yet or a certain direction I was heading. And of course, I don't have great musicians and writers like Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford to improvise with, but I found improvising with myself to be fruitful. There is another of Phil's insights that I tried to keep in mind while writing music to my song, though as you'll see, it's not quite as apparent in the finished product. He says that while writing his first solo album, specifically In the Air Tonight, there was never too much space in Genesis music, whereas I covet space. For sure, the songs I might eventually record will have room to breathe. This embryonic number, built around this nice chord sequence, is the perfect example of the space I'm looking for. This sense of space is absolutely there in the Air Tonight, and I tried to capture some of that in my song. I had a rough outline of a verse and a chorus in my recording software, so I was ready to start on my lyrics. Going into this session, I still didn't have a title or an idea for my song, but Phil's story pushed me to try something I hadn't tried in my songwriting up to this point. Phil says that with writing In the Air Tonight, I communicate in song. When Andy, his first wife, hears these words, she will realize how hurt I am, and how much I love her, and how much I miss my kids, then she'll understand. Then it'll be okay. So while writing my lyrics, I decided to think about a person who had hurt me in the past and how I felt about what they had done. Up to this point, I hadn't really delved into my personal life with my songs, preferring to stay detached from what I was writing about. But some of the best songs, like Phil's, were sung with this personal feeling in mind, whether or not the listener is aware of it. While writing, I often found myself closing my eyes, drumming along to the beat, and thinking about this person in a sort of trance state. Then, I would open my mouth and sing. Which brings me to the way Phil tends to write his lyrics, which is similar to the way he writes his music. He improvises. He says, "They come out of me unbidden. This is true stuff. This is like jazz. I improvise, the lyrics coming off the cuff when I record the guide vocal. Sounds roll out of my mouth, become syllables, become words, become clauses, become sentences." He goes on to say, "The way I make the album that will become my first solo set establishes the tone of what I will do in the future. Record all my vocals at home, sing in that improvised way, play it back and write down what I sing, or what it seemed I was trying to sing. You're just jotting down a sketch of what you've just sung. Sometimes it's fully formed, other times it's useless. A song develops, slowly or quickly. You can feel it coming in the air tonight, but only sometimes." This method of lyric writing is something I found I need to get more used to as a songwriter. This visceral, off-the-cuff writing is something that many songwriters do and have been very successful with, but I am still somewhat scared of it. Maybe it was because I was writing about something personal, but it took me a while to just write a chorus and 2 verses. And what I did write, I'm not sure I'm completely happy with, even though it is very true to how I feel. My lyrics ended up being very straightforward and transparent. But Phil has some great insight into this as well, saying, "Sometimes a clear-cut, straight-ahead viewing of things isn't a bad way to go. It's how a lot of people think. Occasionally, the obvious way is the right way, the last thing anybody thinks of." My last session was spent organizing and finishing up my demo of the song with the lyrics. As with my other songs, I play and record all the instruments myself, something Phil also did for his album Both Sides. He says of making the album, "With songs this personal, so close to home, no one else will be playing on or recording them. I play all the instruments myself. The musicianship is, you might say, amateurish, or better, intimate. But that works for these songs. That's part of the charm." During this time, I also solidified what my melody will be for the lyrics. When I was writing them, I had a melody in mind, but I decided to take some of Phil's advice and try out some alternate melodies to see if I liked them better. He says of writing with Genesis, "One thing I learned from writing with the guys is to never accept the first melody idea you sing. Dig deeper, and play around with it. Explore." Once I had landed on a melody and had my instrumental part recorded, I had my demo ready. Phil's technique taught me a lot about not only how to write a song, but how to express myself through a song. I think doing this method more and getting more comfortable with it would be something worthwhile. It does seem to lead to very honest ideas and relatable lyrics. As Phil says in the book, out of raw emotion emerges instinctive truth.
If I was drowning, would you reach out your hand, or would you let me sink beneath? If I was dying, would you say you understand, or would I barely hear you breathe? Just have one question. What made you go? Don't need to fix it. That's not what you owe. Just tell me why. I have the right to know. Opened up my mind. You took a look inside and saw something you could disregard. Opened up my heart. You took a moment to decide it was something you could just discard. Just have one question. What made you go? Don't need to fix it. That's not what you owe. Just tell me why. I have the right to know. I have the right to. I have the right to know. I have the right to. I have the right to know. I have the right to. I have the right to know.
So that was the song. And like I said, I'm not sure I'm completely happy with it as it is now. I think I need more time to digest how I feel about the subject and find more effective lyrics to express those feelings. But I do think this is a song I needed to write at this moment in time. Phil's technique helped me feel more comfortable writing about personal experiences and having them inform my songwriting. Phil is a master at this, which is why I think a lot of his songs are so successful and have affected so many people. And if you are a fan of Phil Collins, I would highly recommend Not Dead Yet. It gives a great insight into Phil's career and life that will change the way you listen to his music. Thank you for joining me at the Songwriters Workshop. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. I'll see you at the next song.